Making a one-piece seamless silicone arm mold. This is a long overdue tutorial to answer many of your questions about making a more permanent arm mold, especially if you just made a life cast mold with alginate or silicone, and then you're wanting to make a more permanent silicone mold to be able to reproduce copies over and over again. So we're going to be doing just that, and in this case, I'm making this mold specifically for casting SkinFlex 5 polyurethane. And that's a really important part of this process, and the planning process is making sure that you plan your molds for the casting material. Now, I've talked about this before in one of my mold planning videos about a year ago, but basically the idea here is you always want to work backwards from your casting material. That way you make sure everything you're using in your process is going to be compatible. So in this case, we're going to be working with SkinFlex 5. That's a soft polyurethane rubber. And ideally, SkinFlex 5 should be cast into a platinum silicone mold or a properly released plaster, stone, or resin mold. Now, by starting with the casting material and then working backward from our casting material, that makes sure that all of the steps of the process are compatible. And that way we don't accidentally choose a mold material that's not compatible with our casting material. In this case, for instance, we would not want to use a tin cure silicone because that will cause surface inhibition with SkinFlex 5. Now, in a previous tutorial, I made a mold of one of my daughter's arms using a life casting silicone, and then I poured the SkinFlex 5 directly into that mold. And that works great for 1 or 2 or 3 castings, but if we want to do production casting, we need a better quality mold. And we need to be able to clean up the air bubbles or any other defects in that life cast. So here I'm going to be pouring up a pattern using TC802 polyurethane resin. And just for fun, I'm mixing in a little bit of the 6918 flesh pigment. And then I'm going to pour that into that same life cast mold. So here I've mixed up the B and the pigment, and now I'm adding the part A. And this is a fast setting, very low viscosity resin system. So you want to move fast. As soon as you get that part A added, the clock starts ticking. So we want to get that mixed up. And that, of course, that resin system mixes 1:1 by volume, or 100A to 90B by weight. And once I get that mixed up, I'm going to pour that into my life cast mold. And pouring up hands is always tricky just because the fingers are going to be curled a little bit. When you have a hand in just a relaxed position, the fingertips are going to be curled in just a little bit. So what I'm doing here is just pouring in the resin about halfway full in the mold, and then I'm going to tilt it around to make sure I burp those air bubbles out of the fingertips to make sure I get bubble-free fingertips. And then once I've done that, I'll fill up the mold the rest of the way and let that resin set. But again, you want to move fast. Remember that that has about a 2-minute working time at room temperature. So you want to make sure you move quick, get everything poured in place, and then allow that resin to set. Now, one of the things with life cast molds like this, again, even a really good life cast mold is always going to have some little defects because there are limits to how good of a mold you can make directly off of a living human being. And this cast is no different. There's some little defects in between the fingers, some little areas that trapped a little bit of air. So not a big deal, but because of that, we want to pull out a resin copy and clean that up. And if I hadn't poured resin into that mold, I probably could have gotten some more flexible copies out. But typically a resin pour into a mold like that, because it is fairly complicated around the fingertips, I can't just easily pull that out in one piece. So I did have to rip the mold to get that out. But we now have a nice resin pattern, and we're ready to clean that up and make our mold off of that. And this is going to allow me to do 2 things. One, fix any air bubbles or defects in the hand from the life casting process, which thankfully there aren't many here. But more importantly, I'm also going to be able to sculpt a keyed base down at the base of the forearm. And that will come in play in some future videos I'll do following up and showing how to embed an armature inside this hand, because that's another one of those things many of you have asked about is if I make a hand, how can I make a core for that? So I'm going to show just that in a follow-up video, so stay tuned for that. Now what I'm doing here is using little bits of sulfur-free clay to fill in any air bubbles. And really important to use sulfur-free clay anytime you're going to be making a platinum silicone mold. And this, of course, will be a block mold, and I'll be using a couple of these mold tubes stuck together to make that mold. And now I'm going to anchor the hand to this little piece of melamine coated plywood. And really important to center that and make sure I have plenty of room around that for my keys. And one of the things I did that you don't really see really well in this video is I also used a little dab of that sulfur-free clay to fill in one of the deep recessed areas where my daughter's thumb meets her hand, because that little area of kind of the crotch of her thumb has a deep recess which the silicone could tear over time in that really thin section. So I want to make sure I'm taking into account all those areas, and that way I can make sure the mold performs well and that hand pulls out easily without ripping chunks of silicone out in every copy that I pull out of the mold. Now, this is the keyed base I was talking about. I just rolled up some clay, shaped into some little very basic triangular shaped keys, and then I'm going to use a dental spatula to trim those up and make those a little nicer. And that keyed base, what that will do is when I make the negative mold with my silicone, it will capture those little key shapes, and that means I can make an armature that will then nest into those keys during the casting process. Now, the mold tube I'm using is 5 inches in diameter, but I want to make sure I take into account the fingertips at the top and make sure none of this is going to touch the sides of that plastic mold tube. So once I've got my keys sculpted, I want to do a quick test fit and just make sure that tube fits over the top and has plenty of clearance around the keys and the fingertips up at the top. And you see it's lacking just a little bit. This is a 12-inch mold tube, so I cut down a separate mold tube and then use some clear packing tape to fix that around the top to extend that mold tube up just a little bit, because I want at least a 1/2 inch of silicone clearance over the top of my hand, and that just ensures that I get a nice tough mold that's going to hold up well for production. So here is my finished mold tube, and once we've got everything secure and ready to go, and I put plenty of tape there around the top to hold that little piece in place, and we're just going to check those tolerances one more time, make sure everything's good to go, and now we are ready to release our hand. Now, for the release agent, I'm using Zip 301 mold release, and this release agent does not contain any silicone oil. Really important. Anytime you're making a silicone mold, do not use a release agent, say for instance like E236, that contains silicone oil. If you do, that could cause your silicone to bond to your pattern. And now we are ready to do a volume calculation to figure out exactly how much silicone we need. Now, to figure out exactly how much silicone we need to mix up, we're going to get a volume measurement for our cylindrical shaped block mold. And cylinder volume formula is radius squared, so 2.5 times 2.5 times pi, 3.14, times the height of our cylinder, which in this case is 13.5. So now we wind up with 264 cubic inches, roughly 265. And then we divide that by 25. And 25 is the cubic inches per pound for TC5110F platinum silicone. And the number that we get, that's how many pounds we need for our mold. So about 10.5 pounds total of silicone. Now, I could probably mix up all 10.5 pounds in one large mixing bucket, but the problem with that is then I won't have enough room to vacuum degas the silicone. So what I'm doing here is I'm breaking this down into 2 batches. Here I'm dispensing the part A into one bucket and then another bucket. And then once I've done that, I'm ready for my part B. And what I'm doing here is each batch is roughly 5.25 pounds of silicone. And that way each bucket, each batch, will have enough room left over in the mixing bucket to rise and collapse when it's subjected to a vacuum. So real important consideration to make, because if you use every bit of that bucket for mixing and then you go to subject that to a vacuum, that's going to explode out of that bucket and make a big mess, and you're going to lose a lot of silicone. So anytime you're doing large pours like this, it's a good idea to break it down into multiple batches, and that just makes it a lot easier to work with. Now, this particular silicone, this is a fast-setting Shore A5 silicone, and I chose this because it's very soft and very stretchy, very high elongation. And this is also very fast because I'm impatient. So this has about a 7 to 8 minute working time at room temperature, and then about a 1 hour demold. 7 to 8 minutes may sound really fast, but because this is a low viscosity silicone, it does vacuum degas pretty quick. So if you move fast, you will have more than enough time to get everything properly mixed, measured, and poured into the mold. So here I'm measuring up the first batch and then the second, and now I'm ready to subject those to a vacuum. Now, even though this is a fairly fast silicone, we still want to take time to scrape the sides and the bottom of the mixing bucket and really get a good mix on our silicone. Can't stress that enough. That is one of the most common mistakes with some of the faster setting materials is poor mixing. So make sure you get those mixed up really well, both those batches, and then we're subjecting the first batch and now the second to a vacuum. Now, what you're watching for when you vacuum degas is the material to rise and then collapse in that vacuum. And once it drops back down, it just looks like it's boiling. It'll do that for a little bit, and then you're ready to take that out and do your pour. If you wait for it to just get totally still, you'll be waiting a really long time. So the main thing you're watching for is that silicone to rise and collapse and give up all the air bubbles, and then you're ready to remove that from the chamber and move on to the pouring stage of your mold making. And when I'm working with really fast setting materials, a lot of times I'll use my smartphone and set that for the working time, or sometimes a little bit less than the material's working time on the data sheet, and keep that visible while I'm working. And that way I have a good indicator of exactly how much time I have to get everything mixed up and poured. So real important to keep track of that working time when you're working with fast setting materials. And now I'm just picking one spot in my mold box, or tube in this case, and pouring it to allow that to fill. There's the first batch, and now I'm ready to transition to the second one. And now our mold is poured, and we're ready to let that sit. Now, real important to remember that all those physical properties and working time and demold time, that's all at room temperature, or 70 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. If you want it to be faster, warm it up, but you never want to work in an environment that's colder than about 65 degrees. Now, this is where things got interesting. That resin hand was a little bit more difficult to remove than I had expected, and a more patient man would have just waited for Mrs. Brick in the Yard to come over and lend an extra hand demolding, but I had to get creative. I drilled a hole through the hand, put a long straight slot screwdriver through it, and popped it right out that way, and that actually worked famously. So there you go. If you ever get in a pinch like that, you can do a one-man demold just like that. So now my 5110F platinum silicone mold is ready for casting. And now it's time to pour up a SkinFlex 5 copy. And this time around, I just poured up a simple copy, no armature or anything like that inside. This is just straight SkinFlex 5. And this has about an 8 to 10 minute working time, and then about a 5 to 6 hour demold, again at room temperature. And much easier to demold the flexible parts than the rigid parts. So I was actually able to demold this much easier than I was the resin hand. Now, as usual, I'll put all the video links to everything I used in the video description, so be sure to check that out. And of course, make sure you watch for the follow-up videos. I'm going to have a couple of follow-up videos to this explaining the use of those keys that I put in the base. And I'll use those keys to embed an armature that is going to look like bones and veins. Real important if you're doing medical simulators or special effects applications. And of course, the 5110 silicone as well as the SkinFlex 5 are both available from bjbmaterials.com. I'll put a link to their website in the video description. And of course, this is the SkinFlex with no pigment, but I'll get more into that in the follow-up videos. And of course, if you haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe. And thanks for watching and supporting the channel.